Today on the Gold Standard.
You can still escape as an investor, even though we've had a very rough year and the climate is very rough. You can still escape with the majority of your wealth intact. So that's a blessing, and you still have the ability to do something about it before it disappears.
This is the Gold Standard from Midas Gold Group with Kenneth Russo. Hello, I'm Dave Dino. Welcome to the Gold Standard, your source for secure investment opinion and information on the advantages of purchasing and owning precious metals. Whether you're a novice investor or an experienced collector, this is the program that gives you a realistic weekly perspective on the state of the economy, reliable information about using precious metals such as gold, silver, and platinum to safeguard your wealth, and remarkable details about specific precious metal coins and bullion. Ken Russo is a senior vice president at Midas Gold Group, and his peers characterize him as a straight shooter who will work harder for you than anyone else. Ken, it's a pleasure to join you again this week.
Always a pleasure, Dave. Nice to be with you.
Our topic is the financial disaster of 2022. Now, Ken, we've often said that investing in stocks is like gambling in Vegas. Eventually, somebody else wins, which in Vegas is the house. Well, now the U.S. economy is being given Vegas-like odds in a new headline that says recession odds are up to 65%. Ken, how could a downturn actually affect people?
Well, very relevant question, Dave. And, the financial disaster of 2022 is just beginning, which is what's very important for people to understand. I mean, we've gone through some turbulent markets this year, some historical markets this year after huge run-ups over the last decade. It was expected, but we're not finished. But recessions, Dave, are more than just a slowing economy. Volatile stock markets or a bad spell of data, which, seems to be what everybody is focused on these days. Any kind of new number that comes out and the markets react one way or another, huge moves. So it's a casino-like atmosphere. But behind the numbers and the jargon, Dave, are real people. Real livelihoods are at stake. And that's what's relevant to what we're talking about today. And everybody who's listening, your savings, your buying power, your nest egg is under attack, right? So think about the economy as an ecosystem. Each decision made by a business, financial institution, or person has ripple effects throughout the entire financial system. We're in an economy that's been supported by debt and printed money, and that's fake. So we're in a fake economy run by debt and fake money. So eventually it's going to kind of just all come caving in, crashing in. So the question is how can you survive financially and not be destroyed when that happens? How can you not have everything taken away from you? So recession fearing investors, they make markets, Dave, even more volatile because they're doing stuff based on emotion. That in turn limits publicly traded firms' access to cash in some instances. Not to mention earnings for a lot of these companies during a recession are going to get crushed. And that's why the multiple, price to earnings multiple on a lot of these companies is going to decrease substantially and thus lower stock prices. So like I said, we're not out of the woods at all, and it's not too late to protect what you have left. But fewer consumers out shopping, Dave, that weighs on sales for these companies. It forces businesses to cut costs, to lay people off just to make ends meet. Look how many thousands of people are being laid off, even with the technology companies going through what they're going through. Tens of thousands of people are being let go. I mean, that will eventually hurt the economy big time, as we are in a consumer-based economy here in the United States. So joblessness, Dave, can further exacerbate the belt tightening among consumers. And this could even, perpetuate even more and more unemployment. So for everyday Americans, Dave, this atmosphere will create severe financial difficulties for many. For the investors out there, the atmosphere of printed money and a fake economy and the whole world drowning in debt is going to cause a very bad investor climate over the next few years. And that also not only includes our stocks and our bonds and our real estate, Dave, but more importantly, what's relevant to this show is the purchasing power of our paper money.
A reminder here that you're listening to The Gold Standard with Ken Russo from Midas Gold Group. And our topic today is the financial disaster of 2022, which it very well was. Ken, you've been encouraging listeners to move their cash savings and investment funds into gold, physical gold, for more than a year as we've watched the decline of our economy. But some might say that, well, you have a self-interest in doing so because Midas Gold Group is a gold dealer. What do you want to say about that?
Well, it's valid, sure, we have an interest, but more importantly, we're promoting something that we feel is strong money. I mean, let's consider the facts for a second. In my hand right now, Dave, I'm looking at a 1928 $20 bill.
Mm.
And at that time, all of our money was backed by gold. So our money was backed by something, a tangible asset. And on this certificate, 1928, $20. It doesn't say Federal Reserve note. I would encourage everybody to pull a paper dollar out of their pocket today, and it says Federal Reserve note, and it says $20 in gold coin payable to the bearer on demand. So if you went to the bank and you brought this $20 bill and you said, "Hey, listen, I'd like to convert this to gold," they would do that right for you on the spot. Much, much different than today. So of course we make a living, and of course we're building a strong business at Midas Gold Group, which we can serve the communities in all 50 states, and we can help people diversify. But it's something we believe strongly in, Dave. We don't believe in unlimited spending. We don't believe in unlimited money printing. We believe that our money should be strong, and it should have buying power. It should be something that people can trust. So if the bankers aren't going to do it, and if the television hosts and the media and the newspapers aren't going to do it, and if the advisors aren't going to do it, and the money managers aren't going to do it, somebody has to educate people on how they can protect a portion of their nest egg, a significant portion of their nest egg, in something else that's just besides reckless monopoly paper, something that is not in the Vegas casino market, something that's private, something that gives you financial freedom. And when you look at all of the stuff that's out there, and when you consider, is it liquid, is it a medium of exchange, there's not that many places to turn to. So I've seen the crashes of Wall Street. I've worked as a trader on Wall Street in the 90s. I saw the dot-com bust. All of this was very predictable. And what we're going through right now is even more predictable. This is going to end very badly. So yes, we love to do business. Yes, that's great if people own gold. But more importantly, besides benefiting Midas Gold Group, this should be something that every single American should be thinking about right now. How could I diversify a portion of my nest egg? And isn't that gratifying in itself, Dave?
Talking about the R word, so to speak, recession, transferring cash reserves and investments over into physical gold and into a gold IRA, it would do what, though, to counteract the terrible effects of a recession?
Well, how many times, Dave, have we gone over? Pull some money out of the banking system, pull some money out of the stock market. Don't be financially destroyed when this all comes crashing down. And that's more than likely what's going to happen eventually. Now, is that going to happen in a week or a year or 5 years? I don't know. But there's a huge difference if you hold your money in a banking system, which is going digital. If you hold your money in a currency that is backed by nothing called fiat money, it's just monopoly money. It's something that they can just print trillions of it out of thin air. How is that strong? How is that reliable? It's not. So when you have a system built on that, and when you have central bankers and politicians that just want to spend and print because they want to get elected and because they want to line the pockets of themselves and their buddies, that builds corruption. And when you have a financial system that's built on corruption, it ends very badly. It always has. History does matter. So, like I said, Dave, if you don't want to have all of your assets in a system like that, which I don't know who would, if you don't want to have all of your assets in a system which are going to be monitored and surveillanced constantly, because we are going to be moving to a digital dollar system, which you and I have talked about many times. If you want to have some privacy, now's the time to do it. So I would urge people to get some diversification while you still can, get some money out of the system while you still can, and put some of your wealth in a tangible asset, which has always been money. It's always been worth something. And yes, folks, that's gold coins, gold bars, and also silver.
And we're going to continue our topic, the financial disaster of 2022, just a little bit later in the program. And we will highlight several other tangible ways to convert your wealth into the security of gold and other precious metals. But first, a reminder that you are listening to The Gold Standard with Ken Russo from Midas Gold Group. And coming up, we're going to look at a specific precious metal that you can use to safeguard your wealth. And that's coming up right after this.
What's happening in America is frightening. The Biden regime has caused a record inflation. Crime is rampant, and our borders are wide open to criminals and drug dealers. Sebastian Gorka here. Now, after the election, Biden says he isn't going to change a thing. Radical Democrats are even more emboldened. That can only mean greater disaster for the American economy, for your money, for your retirement, which is why it's wise to convert your savings and a good portion of your investments into gold with the only gold company I recommend, Midas Gold Group. Gold holds its value when economies fail. Economists are now talking about a looming recession, so I recommend calling veteran-owned Midas Gold Group to safeguard your savings and investments with physical gold before you lose even more. Go to MidasGoldGroup.com, or better yet, call them on 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-GOLD. It's gold you can hold. Call 855-322-GOLD.
And we're back with more of The Gold Standard, brought to you by Midas Gold Group with Ken Russo. And I'm Dave Dino. Our topic today is the financial disaster of 2022. By the way, if you live in the Los Angeles or the Phoenix area, you can actually come and visit our local office to meet with us in person. The address and directions are available on our website, MidasGoldGroup.com. M-I-D-A-S, MidasGoldGroup.com. For those of you listening in other cities, call us directly at 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-GOLD. By the numbers 855-322-4653. Now, it's time for our precious metal spotlight of the week, and today, Ken, let's talk again about the gold South African Krugerrand. Why is this coin so well known?
Let's ask ourselves, why would we want something like a gold Krugerrand? Simple example of what we're talking about, Dave. Last week, my son came to me and he said, "Hey, Dad, I used to buy this McDonald's Happy Meal every week. It used to cost $7 for years, and now it costs $12."
Whoa.
Any idea why that happened, Dad? I mean, it's the same amount of food that's in the box. I said, well, it's because our paper money always buys less, and prices are going up, and that's the fate that paper money and fiat money bears. And that's why you need something to hold its value, like the gold South African Krugerrand. And this, Dave, was the first gold bullion coin produced and is now widely popular. It's a 1 ounce coin. Remember, back in 1974, President Ford said that it was okay for U.S. citizens to own gold again. Remember, there was no gold made by the U.S. mints from 1933 to 1985. So one of the few coins that was available at that time to own, kind of an old-timer's coin, was the gold African Krugerrand. It was first released, Dave, in 1967, so it's the world's oldest modern minted gold bullion coin, and one of the most popular among investors. And we do have a bunch of them right now, Dave, in inventory. The Krugerrand represents an excellent choice. It still does, for anyone who's looking to invest, Dave, in gold in a safe way, in a beautiful coin. The Krugerrand represents exactly that.
Well, let's say that you're holding one in your hand right now, and I must say, I envy you because you can actually do that. You have access to this beautiful coin. Can you describe it to us?
Yeah, Dave. Well, everybody who's listening today have access to gold in this beautiful coin. That's the beautiful part of what we're talking about. You don't have to be a billionaire to own gold. You just have to have an open mind and understand what's happening to our paper money. But this 1 ounce gold coin, it's actually about 1.1 troy ounces. So it's 91.67 pure, 22 carats. It has a little bit of copper in it, Dave. So if anybody's familiar with the Krugerrand, it has a little bit of a browner color to it than, say, like a maple leaf or a buffalo. It's a remarkably hefty coin, so to speak. And to its name, Dave, the South African gold Krugerrand coin is named for the Boer statesman Paul Krugman, the long-running president of South Africa. The word rand at the end of the coin's name is the name of the South African currency. So, you have the gentleman's name there, and then you have the currency's name, and that's how you kind of get Krugerrand. Krugman's vision graces the obverse side of the Krugerrand. And on the reverse side of the South African national symbol, you have an antelope-like springbok, which is portrayed spring across the back of the coin. So the gold Krugerrand, Dave, it offers a uniquely affordable way to get into the gold bullion market. Typically, the price of these coins is a little bit less than, say, a gold eagle or a gold buffalo. So if people are looking for a good value for a coin, and remember, folks, in a coin, in a good gold market, the coins will appreciate more than a bar. So that's the reason why people do like coins, not to mention it is legal tender. But keep in mind, Dave, because this coin, it has some copper in it, the purity of this coin does not make it IRA eligible. So the only way you could own this coin is if you have some liquid assets at the bank or some liquid assets at your stockbroker or your investment company, and you want to convert those funds into something that you could hold on to yourself. That's a liquid cash transaction. The gold Krugerrand is something that you are able to own through a transaction like that. So it does meet specific needs of people who are looking to diversify, looking to hold a tangible asset, looking for something that's going to do well in a good gold market. And yes, Dave, we do expect the dollar in the next 5 or 10 years to lose a lot of value. And in return, gold will reflect that, and gold should be much higher in value over the next 5 years.
Ken, thank you so much. Coming up in a moment, we are going to continue our topic of the financial disaster of 2022 with Ken Russo from Midas Gold Group, and that's coming up right after this.
It now costs painfully more to buy the essentials of life than it did a year ago under the Biden regime. Your money is losing value every day. Sebastian Gorka here. One thing that doesn't lose value is gold, which is why it's wise to convert your savings and a good portion of your investments into gold with the only gold company I recommend, veteran-owned Midas Gold Group. Go to midasgoldgroup.com, or better yet, call them at 855-322-GOLD.
And we're back with more of the Gold Standard, brought to you by Midas Gold Group with Ken Russo. I'm Dave Dino. Our topic today is the financial disaster of 2022. As we have been saying, if you live in the Los Angeles or Phoenix area, you can actually come and visit our local office and you can meet with us in person. For the address and directions, just log on to our website, midasgoldgroup.com, M-I-D-A-S, midasgoldgroup.com. And for those of you listening in other cities, call us directly at 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-GOLD. By the numbers 855-322-4653. Now let's return to our topic, the financial disaster of 2022. And boy, it is very apparent to everyone that the year was a financial disaster. Here are more worrisome economic quotes, Ken. A recent article was headlined, "What's happening in America right now is unprecedented in U.S. history." How do you see that?
Well, the first thought that comes to mind, Dave, after everything that you've been saying is you can still escape as an investor, even though we've had a very rough year and the climate is very rough. You can still escape with the majority of your wealth intact. So that's a blessing, and you still have the ability to do something about it before it disappears. That's an important point to make. You can do something about it, folks, before it disappears. But the article that you're citing, Dave, it's worrisome in many ways. First of all, stimulus spending has cost American taxpayers $6 trillion.
Wait a minute, don't skip over that. Not billion, but $trillion?
Yeah, 6 trillion. And
Wow.
It's probably even more than that. And when you talk about the global situation, I mean, look at how much has been stimulated and spent over the last few years as the whole world is drowning in debt. But here in the United States, we're close to 32 trillion in debt when it comes to the fiscal situation, federal debt. If you look at consumer debt, federal debt, and corporate debt, we're over $90 trillion. So we're just drowning in debt, and that will end very badly. And secondly, the data shows, Dave, that the government is now responsible for, listen to this, 1/3 of all the income in the United States. That's how many people are struggling, and they're looking for aid. But you know the old saying, the more people who are dependent on the government, they're more easily controlled. So That's shocking in my opinion, but that may all be part of a plan. Let's eliminate the middle class and let's make everybody very dependent on us so that we can control even more. And that's where our monetary system is headed for sure. But we're seeing signs of even more alarming trouble. Economists, Dave, are warning Americans that when this bubble bursts, it'll be much worse than the Great Depression. And that could definitely happen. We're not doomsayers. We're just people that are realists. And when you look at the situation out there of the economy, and when you look at the situation of who's calling the shots and the background and the business capabilities of these people who are our leaders, that's embarrassing, and it's very disappointing, and it's very upsetting. On the other hand, when you look at the interest rate environment and you look at the debt situation, which is very different than maybe back in the 70s, people say, well, we had inflation in the 70s. We got through it. Well, we did, but the interest rate environment today and the debt situation is very different. We didn't have $91 trillion in debt back in the 70s. We didn't have $32 trillion in debt in the United States in the 70s. The world wasn't 300 trillion plus in debt back in the 70s. There weren't $2 quadrillion worth of derivatives that you and I talked about a couple months ago on a show. These derivatives are just going to make the moves and make the bursting of this bubble even worse and catastrophic. So it's not a good financial situation, Dave, but it is what it is. So we can do something about this. We can still protect ourselves. We can still move some money out of our investments and out of paper and out of this corrupt banking system. We could move it out of this funny money, out of this monopoly money, this fake money that they call a Federal Reserve note or a dollar bill that we have in our pocket, and we can move it into something strong that we know will be there and it will always have value. Gold and some silver.
A reminder that you're listening to The Gold Standard with Ken Russo from Midas Gold Group. And today our topic is the financial disaster of 2022. And Ken, I don't want to leave our listeners with a lot of depressing news. How about some good news?
Well, the good news, Dave, is we're going to come out of this one day a lot better than we are now. And the most important things in life are, free, like God and friends and family, right? But gold, you want something that's going to hold your purchasing power and provide a hedge. It's provided a hedge historically against inflation and against lost purchasing power of our money. If you look at the crash of 2008, you remember that, Dave. A lot of people were financially destroyed during the mortgage crisis that obviously was put together by the government and the banking system. What's new? But back in 2008, gold was around $800 an ounce, went up to $1,900 in the following few years after that. And that's almost where it is today. So gold went up almost 200% since the financial crisis in 2008. Let's compare that to the value of our paper money back in 2008. I would bet you that our paper money has lost 25 or 40% of its buying power since 2008. So that's a huge difference. If you had $100,000 in gold in 2008, you now have at least $250,000 in gold. If you had $100,000 in paper back in 2008, you probably have something now that has $40,000 or $50,000 worth of buying power. That's a drastic difference. And that's what we're talking about, Dave. That's what people need to protect themselves against today.
And that is going to bring us to the end of our time together here on The Gold Standard with Ken Russo, brought to you by the Midas Gold Group. A reminder, opinions given here are not intended to be specific to your investment strategy, but rather general information to give you a better understanding of investing in precious metals. For answers to your questions, call Midas Gold Group at 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-GOLD. By the numbers 855-322-4653. And the website is MidasGoldGroup.com. MIDAS, MidasGoldGroup.com. I'm always happy to tell people that the Midas Gold Group is proud to be America's #1 veteran-owned gold dealer, supporting veterans' causes with a portion of profits donated to the Wounded Warriors Project and the Semper Fi Fund. So your investment in your future is also an investment in the future of those who have bravely served the cause of freedom. Again, the number to call to speak directly with Midas Gold Group is 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-GOLD. Ken, thank you so much for your time again today.
It's my pleasure, Dave. Always nice to talk to you.
I'm Dave Dino, and I hope you'll come and join us again next week at this same time for another edition of The Gold Standard.
The Gold Standard was brought to you by the Midas Gold Group.